And now for your listening pleasure, here's Pulizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, my friends. This is Robert Rose, and welcome to episode number 390 of This Old Marketing for Friday, August 25th, 2023. And with me, as always, as he always is, my colleague and my friend, and really, I think one of the only guys that wasn't on the Republican debate stage last night, Mr. Joe Pulizzi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well.
First of all, 390. Jeez,
I know.
Have we done this 390 times?
390 times. It's amazing.
I think a couple episodes ago, are we wasting our lives?
Yes, that is. There's no doubt about that.
Is this a worthy use of not only our time, but everyone's listening to us?
It is. It is sad. Yes.
It is. Did you watch the debate? Did you watch the Republican debate?
I did, because I wanted to comment on it for the show, not from a politics standpoint, but truly from a marketing and brand standpoint, and talk about how, from a marketing perspective, how did they do, and all of that. Because honestly, it's not my team, so I'm literally.
Oh my God, you're not conservative?
No, I'm not.
Gasp.
I used to be. I used to be
as well.
But that has changed quite a bit. But I did want to look at it from the marketing and brand, specifically a brand standpoint, because that's what always, that's what debates really are. Political debates these days are really brand media events. And so I wanted to see how brands either got lifted or sunk.
Well, I want to hear
Yeah.
I want to hear your take, but it's just interesting that you have, what was there, 8? I don't know how many people were on stage with this whole thing, but they're all going for second. Like nobody has ever. So Mr. Trump has such a lead it's never not happened where that person so far ahead at this point hasn't gotten the nomination. Literally doesn't need to do anything. Can get all the indictments, all the negative stuff can keep coming. That numbers of 40%, it's not going to change. The number of having the majority of the Republican voters doesn't seem like it's going to change. So you're saying, so this is an opportunity for one of these to break out of the pack and be if Trump can't do it, we have a second place.
And that seemed to be the energy last night. And what I found fascinating was, so if you'd asked me the question that I'm about to answer on Monday, I would have said DeSantis is in trouble. And again, I'm just talking about from a marketing perspective. DeSantis is in trouble because everybody's going to go after him, and basically as the number 2, and so he's polling second right now, and he's going to be in trouble because A, he's not a great debater, and 2, his campaign is not doing that well, so it was going to be a struggle. But fascinatingly, I would have been completely wrong on that answer, because they didn't go. I mean, he was almost a no-show. I mean, I think
I saw that he had the least amount of airtime.
He absolutely did. And so it was interesting, because now that I'm rethinking it, I can see why they didn't do that. It's basically, it's the what's the Sun Tzu Art of War thing, right? Don't attack your enemy when he's beating himself or
That's
whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think
it's from Moneyball too. Brad Pitt says, when your enemy's making mistakes, don't interrupt them.
That's right. That's it. Yeah. That's exactly it. That's what I was trying to think of. And that's exactly what's going on, I think, with DeSantis. And so instead they went after, I always get his name wrong, Ramaswamy.
I think that's right. Yeah.
And so they all went after him.
Wow.
And so that was fascinating. And so I think if you sort of look at sort of the totality of it, what I would call from a brand and marketing perspective, interestingly, I think Pence probably took from a from purely a marketing and brand perspective, I think Pence got the biggest win, right? Christie, of course, is Christie, and I think Christie is an up and comer from a marketing perspective there. But I think Pence probably won the night because he was the most. He came across as the most senior statesman-like, of the group. I'll tell you who lost in the biggest way. One, I think, although interestingly, the analysis seems to disagree with me here. I think DeSantis took a huge hit here. I think him not having to defend himself and him sort of sitting in the corner quietly, I don't think that did him any favors. I think a lot of people think it did, and I don't think it did him any favors. But I'll tell you, the biggest loser are the Fox debate moderators. They were awful. They were just absolutely, they were just not good. I mean, not that it really matters that much in the scheme of life, but they were just, they let people talk over their time. They didn't. Yeah,
it's such a tough job though to manage that. I would never want that job.
I wouldn't either, but especially with the way that the rules are all set up now and the way that the candidates, set up the way that they're going to do stuff. But it's just, look, debates have stopped becoming debates a long time ago. TV debates are just not debates anymore. They're just, they're just ways for them to do mini versions of their stump speeches. But
that's true. But here's the thing, and this is what I've always believed about DeSantis, and knowing you don't need to talk about any of his issues.
Yeah.
Somebody with that personality today, in today's day and age, will not get elected. They will not. He doesn't have the outgoing personality. That's why everybody likes Ramaswamy, because he's got that. I mean, he's out there rapping Eminem songs and doing his thing and whatever, and they think he's got that edge to it.
He's a TikTok star. Yeah.
So that, so you can close. That's why everyone was probably smart to say, everyone's campaign manager said, yeah, just leave DeSantis alone. He's just going to go back himself.
That's right.
Behind the curtain, and you're never going to see him again. He just doesn't have it.
That's right.
I've always liked Christie, just as but for some, he just can't find that position that's going to take him to. But he's such a good speaker when he wants to be.
I when Christie first started coming up, I was like, well, now there's a Republican I can actually, he's, I disagree with him on a few things, but largely he seems to be
reasonable.
He seems reasonable. He seems
like you could have a conversation with him. That's right. Like in Hamilton. It's like everyone liked Aaron Burr because you feel like you could have a drink with Aaron Burr. He's a good guy. Yeah. I feel okay around him. Yeah. Anyways, our apologies to all of our international listeners.
I think they're interested in that. They're way more interested in this than they are football. I mean,
oh my gosh. When I would, before the 2016 election, when I would go overseas, they would always ask me about Trump. Like, is that really going to happen? And they know more about U.S. politics than U.S. citizens.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% they do.
Yeah.
And by the way, which is also amazing to me, and I was actually going to post this on social media, but I ended up not doing it, which is this week, India landed a spaceship on the moon, and nobody's talking about it.
Why is that?
I guess because it's not, first of all, it's not the U.S., and so there's that whole thing. But I don't know why.
It's the first time.
Quite amazing.
It's the first time a shuttle of any kind has landed in that particular part.
That's right.
Where it's the coldest part of the moon, where all these frozen minerals, and they say water's there, and the scientists are very excited, but nobody else seems to be talking about it.
It's just amazing to me. Yeah, it's amazing to me. So
they're all talking about we know what they're talking about is the hurricane that you had.
Oh my God.
in LA.
Yes,
big deal. Yeah. Did you get rain?
We did. People, first of all, thank you to all of you out there in the audience who sent me notes. I got lots of notes basically saying, God bless you. I hope things go well, because the media so overhyped this whole thing that people were like genuinely concerned that we were going to be wiped.
You literally probably got an inch of rain, didn't you?
We got 2 inches. Here we got almost 3 inches of rain.
So, and that's about equal to what you get in a couple months.
It's in some years it's what we get all year. Okay. And it came in a few hours. So, Yes, there was some flooding. Yes, there was. I mean, but there's flood. I mean, if it sprinkles here, there's some flooding. It's just the city is not built for heavy rain. But it was actually lovely. It was a lovely day. Sunday was a lovely day.
So you were out while the hurricane was going on. You were out walking with your umbrella. You had a romantic stroll with your wife.
Yes, that's the funny thing is we're in the middle of the afternoon and it's raining hard. And I'm sitting in my office and I'm working on the computer and doing things and blah, blah, blah. And my wife, who hates earthquakes, always has. They freak her out. And they don't bother me that much. I mean, they're not good. Let me just be clear. They're not a good thing, but they're not, they don't freak me out like they freak her out.
Okay.
And so she's in the middle of, sort of like looking at the rain and going, okay, and are we prepared? And is everything good? And all of a sudden the house starts shaking with this hurricane in the middle of the rain. And I hear from the other room, "You've got to be effing kidding me."
And it's the end of the world.
Oh my God. She's like, what is this for real? So yeah, we had an earthquake in the middle of this rainstorm, and everybody started talking about it. But
wow,
no damage there. It was really close to us, actually, relatively speaking, as earthquakes go. But so we had that, and then we had the rain, but it was a lovely weekend. It was a lovely weekend all the way around.
Very good.
I think. Yeah,
and I want to let you know that I did watch a little bit of episodes 1 and 2 of Hard Knocks NFL.
Okay. Yeah.
Just because everybody, you were talking about it.
Sure.
I wanted to get a feel. And our friend Jim McLeod said it really well. They position Aaron Rodgers as sort of like Zava from Ted Lasso. Like
yes. Oh my gosh, that's the perfect.
Isn't that
metaphor.
The perfect?
Oh, he's so good.
So
yes.
Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback from the New York Jets, formerly the Green Bay Packers of the National Football League, really so comes across as the all-knowing, wise person.
Oh my gosh, that's
very
so
gentle. I saw like 2 minutes on everybody talking about how Aaron Rodgers goes down to the ground and picks up the grass.
Yes.
And why does he know something we don't?
God,
What's he doing with the grass?
Oh my God, it's so good.
It was really kind of nuts.
And he's so chewing up the scenery in that. Oh. Like, I mean, when they actually ask him about the grass, you can see in his eyes that he's totally trolling. Right, he's totally trolling the audience by going.
Didn't he say like I've really become one with nature and the environment around me, and then he says, and it's also good to know which direction the wind's going, so I know how to throw the ball.
That's
but
right.
It's really because I want to be one with the nature and the environment, and be at peace in the world. It really is. It is the best PR move ever.
Yes,
for Aaron Rodgers,
100%. 100%. This is a PR. Whoever his PR person is just like, the given the baby meme that, it's perfect. It's crazy. So anyway, right. and I received a lot of comments from people this week because apparently last week we talked a lot about football. Yes, we did. And I agree. It was probably too much. We got into a little bit of a thing about football, but this week we didn't. We learned our lesson. Thank you very much. We learned.
But we don't care. I think that's we can talk about whatever we want.
Oh, we care. Who are you kidding? We care.
No, I don't.
We care.
I don't
listen to that.
I think that we should totally stop talking about marketing and talk about
that's
knitting.
Not even a little bit true.
Or
that's not even a little bit true.
Yeah.
All right. We've made a couple of lists. Well, I'll say this, and this will be the last thing. We've made a couple of lists over the last couple of weeks. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've noticed that on social media there's who's your favorite marketing podcast? Yes, and we're making those lists, which is lovely.
That's nice.
It's very, but I always think to myself whenever we make those lists and somebody goes, "Oh, I'm gonna go check it out," and they go listen to the first 15 minutes, and all we're talking about is the NFL.
They're like, you have to go.
They're like, "Am I getting the right? Is there another this old marketing that I'm missing?" So
what's interesting to me though is we've seen some of these. We sort of shared them with each other. When you look at podcasting, if you get like let's say 5,000 downloads a month, like that's top 1%.
I know.
Like you don't realize. By the way, folks,
books,
we do about 30,000 downloads a month. So just to throw it out there, that's generally what we get.
Yeah.
And thank you for all the listeners. It's wonderful. And we're not a huge podcast, but we are, not a lot of podcasts get that kind of, and it's because we've been doing this 390 times.
That's right.
What the heck? Who in their right mind would do that? That's why there's on the leaderboard of the top podcasts, they're all crazy people. Because they've been doing it for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. It's kind of crazy.
I think that's probably true. Yeah, we are a going concern, as the financial people would say.
We're a mental health show in action.
All right. Speaking of mental health shows in action, we've got a good one. We've got a good one for the last show of August, as it were. We're going to talk a little bit about WPP and their guidance about the coming quarter here and where we might be with tech marketing, with services marketing. And as I read this article, I sort of felt the pain here. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Then we'll talk about a topic that we haven't talked about in a long time, which of course is crypto and NFTs.
It's been like a year.
Yeah, some recent news with regard to the Bored Ape Yacht Club, as well as Opensea, and where the status of NFTs and crypto are these days. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And then maybe threads on the web, maybe it'll finally resurrect, something that sort of went to sleep really quickly here, which is threads, of course, and maybe threads on the web will actually reinvigorate the participation and engagement on that platform. It's here, or almost here, as we'll learn. And then if we get time, we'll talk a little bit about, Elon's favorite project, which is, of course, Twitter. And they're blocking the block feature. They're going to actually take away the ability to block people.
Block the block.
Yeah, they're going to block the block, as it were. And then we're going to get into rants and raves, of course, where Joe will talk. He's going to unload, as he said, about Six, the musical, which I am very anxious to hear about, especially because my wife is going to be going to New York and she needs a recommendation.
She's got to go see it. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the last proposal coming out of the WGA writer's strike and how they're having a toxic freak out about that, and where I think, not a rant or a rave, more commentary more than anything else about where we may be going with the WGA.
I hear progress is being made, but I want to hear I'm looking forward to your take.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree.
Oh, well, good. Well, then let's just stop right there, and we'll get to it.
It'll be fun. So anyway, that's our show. So let's get to our first story here. Maybe we need music for our big first story or something like.
I mean, I have music in here. I mean, there's all kinds of. I mean, there's all kinds of things we could do. How about this one?
All right. There we go.
Here we go.
All right, folks, let's get to our Wall Street Journal article.
Here it comes. Now we're going to add it. We're going to add it to the stream so you can see it.
And now. There you go.
By the way, this is probably better entertainment if you're watching it on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
But there you go. Yeah, I have. Anyway. We could absolutely, with the amazing StreamYard, I can throw up music at any time, and they even have they have all kinds of amazing things. I'm sorry. Now I'm playing with.
Yeah, now you're. All right, DJ Jazzy Jeff. All right, let's go. Our first story comes to us courtesy of the Wall Street Journal, and it is about WPP, the huge holding company that has hashtag all the agencies in the world. And they have lowered their guidance amid what they call a tech marketing slowdown. The article opens up by saying advertising holding company WPP has reduced its growth forecast for the year after it saw lower revenue in the U.S. from technology clients and delays in spending on technology projects in the second quarter. The London-based company, which owns agencies including Ogilvy, Wunderman Thompson, and VMLY&R, as well as media buying giant Group M, previously said it expected its like-for-like revenue less pass-through cost. That is the most agency thing ever.
Oh, yes.
And I can explain that if you want to, but
let's not.
It's
let's
just
not
ridiculous.
Say we did. Yeah. They can read the article.
Yeah. Now it expects that figure to sit between 1.5% and 3% instead of the 3 or 5% that it had forecast earlier this year. So not a huge dip, but a dip nonetheless. And basically, softness in the market from technology sector clients wasn't unique to WPP in the second quarter. And boy, I can expound on that. Competitors Omnicom, IPG, and S4 recently called out slower spending by technology marketers, while some ad holding companies also cited less spending by telecommunications marketers. So the article goes on to talk about how this might be, a broader slowdown that we're seeing. I've seen it. I have done my, what I usually call, as listeners of this show will heard me say before, my walk in the dog survey. I've talked to lots of CEOs at smaller technology companies, smaller consultancies, smaller agencies. Everybody is feeling this right now. The slow summer, including yours truly, by the way, the slower summer for pipeline, the slower summer for consulting services, for creative services, and for technology services, that marketers have just been battening down the hatches and sort of working with what they got. And so everybody's seeing this. So it's fascinating to me. I have a take on this, but I want to get your take on this about A, if you're seeing it, but B, if you think this is a season coming to an end, or if this is a longer term trend, or what you think about the current market space.
Well, there's no doubt we've been in an ad and marketing recession, and we felt it as well here with the tilt, with people just saying, "Hey, we're not going to advertise. We're done. Maybe next year." So the hope is, it feels like next year, 2024, will be better, but it always feels that way. It felt that way in 2008. It felt that way in 2009. We always felt like we were coming out of it, and we never did. I mean, that was a 3-year recession, if you will. The difference is, and where I can't get past this whole thing, is this seems to be very localized with ad marketing, certain categories, but not the economy at large. I mean, we definitely have not been in. The consumers are buying up tons. They're going to the movies to see Barbie. They're traveling like crazy. Airbnb's having a great, everything from that standpoint is up. People are buying experiences. But on the corporate side, and I don't know if it's because the prognosticators said we were going to go in a recession, so everybody sort of held back, but it worked.
I think that's exactly it, by the way, but keep going.
No, that's so yes, we are definitely in one. I feel like in my talks with marketing directors and VPs that they're looking forward to investing again in 24, but that can easily stop with the CEO or the COO saying, "Oh, okay, I know I was going to give you budget, and I know I planned for you to increase your budget by 3 to 5% or 7% or whatever next year, or to reinstate those things that you put a stop on." But we'll see. We'll see. I'm not very confident, Robert, that we're actually going to come back into 24 and see that happen, especially when a lot of companies have performed really well. And it generally happens because your advertising, the stuff you do for your marketing doesn't make an impact necessarily 6, 9, 12 months. It does many years out in a lot of cases. And so you don't see the impact right away. You might see it in 24. So that's why you never want to stop your marketing, by the way. Because you never know. I don't know. So anyway, what do you think about 24? Do you think we're going to?
I think 24 is going to be better. And I actually think that we're going to see a bit of a turnaround here in the fourth quarter on some of this stuff, because I have two theories, so for what it's worth, two theories that are work here. One of which I'm actually going to talk about at Content Marketing World. I'm calling it change fatigue, which is, we spent the last 2 years coming out of the pandemic, and everybody's hair was on fire about digital transformation, right? And so there was a huge thrust in a lot of businesses to get straight with digital transformation. Those projects that were, I used to make a joke in 2018 and 2019 that everybody had a 2020 initiative, right? Because it sounds great, right? Everybody's got their 2020 initiative. We would see it in our clients, and you'd walk down the halls and there would be, Project X, the 2020 initiative, Project Y, the 2020 project. Everybody had a 2020 project. And then of course 2020 went up, and went to hell in a handbasket.
What happened in 2020? I'm not sure.
So all of those digital transformation projects got put on the back burner in that year, and then came back in, so many ways, with everybody's, like I said, hair on fire in 2021 and 2022. And I think what happened was then everybody started talking about the coming recession that never materialized. And I think a lot of businesses, rightly or wrongly, it doesn't really matter at this point, it just happened, but rightly or wrongly said, hey, let's not change for a bit, right? Let's do with what we have. And honestly, I think a lot of this we can put at the feet of the Great Recession, the Great Resignation, as well as what happened in the tech sector. What everybody watched was we saw a bunch of people quit. We laid off a bunch of people in the tech sector. We basically broke down our companies to the bare minimum, down to the studs like Twitter and what others did, and nothing broke. And I think a lot of CEOs and senior leadership looked at that and went, okay, coming recession, we can break this thing down to its studs and things aren't going to break. Let's just see what happens with us, right? Let's just see. And I think you have this sort of sitting on the sidelines waiting for stuff to happen. Couple that with the third leg of the stool, which is, to your point, everybody traveled this year. Like it felt like everybody went on vacation this year.
Well, yeah. I mean, of course, the ones that got canceled in 2021, they all moved to. I have a lot of our friends that had their cruises rebooked to 23, yep. And
yeah. And so you have this sort of, hey, I'm not going to miss anything. Like this digital transformation thing is not going to happen anymore, and we're just going to do business as usual for the summer. This is the perfect time for me to take 2 weeks off, right? It's the perfect time for me to go away. And so you had everybody take their full 2 weeks vacation and go away somewhere. And so you ended up having this thing where nobody was going to start anything new. That, I think, is going to change here in the fourth quarter. I think we're going to start to see some pressure for growth coming into the new year and to finish the year strong. So I think we're going to start to see some things start to pick up as sort of growth returns. I have the feeling of growth returns. Maybe I'm a little just like desirable of that for the obvious reason. But I do believe that's what we're going to start to see. 24, I think, to your point, is a bit of a question mark for me because a lot of it, it's an election year. So typically in an election year, we do see a lot of growth types of initiatives because they sense change is coming and people want to be ready for that change. Mm-hmm. So it's a bit of a question mark for me at the moment, depending on how the election starts to shape up and what's going to happen there. And I think there's a lot of things that could sort of derail or re-rail, as it were, the ideas there. But it's a very interesting time, and what I know from a lot of my colleagues that I've been talking to, everybody's thinking about stuff, right? Everybody's thinking about how are we changing our offering, how are we changing, what we do for a living. I know a lot of smaller agencies are looking to get jobs now, and they're sort of that wave will certainly be there, and a lot of the independent consultants I know are sort of taking jobs at this moment. So it reminds me so very much of 2010 and 2011 about what you and I were going through at that point. And 2012 and 2013 started to become really good again.
Good years, yeah.
Yeah, they were really good years. So, I'm looking at a similar pattern. I guess that's my point.
Yeah, and it'll be the further we get away from 2020, the more the marketing industry normalizes a little bit, even with all the AI stuff around it. I mean, that's the ongoing. I mean, you talk to marketers. I've talked about. They're all talking about AI. I mean, everything is AI.
Way, everything we're talking about here. Yeah.
What do I have to know? What do I have to do? Yeah. What should I be hiring? Whatever. Are we going to need to hire more because of AI, or do we lose jobs because of AI? I mean, this is
everything I've just said is outside of the bubble that is AI right now. Like you talk to AI startups. Well, I mean the bubble of what AI is like sitting off on its own right now. Like it basically, you talk to AI startups, you talk to agencies that are focused on AI, you talk to Paul at Macon, and basically they're like, the economy's bad. Like, there's pipeline is slow. What are you talking about? I mean, we're talking to everybody right now. So AI is a whole different thing.
So it should be interesting. So, but I'm mildly optimistic for 24.
Okay, I am too.
To have people invest in. But to your point, the easy profit was made. When you cut back on employees, that's always the easy profit. And now you're right. We've got to get back to growth in 24.
That's right.
So that's good for marketing. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, speaking of bad times and interesting times and sort of a sea change, if you'll forgive the pun. Well, let's talk a little bit about NFTs and crypto. So this story that we'll use to cover and sort of talk about what's going on in the world is fascinating because it's a recent set of events that have gone on here. So if any of you have been following the Bored Ape Yacht Club, which has sort of become that and CryptoPunks sort of being the two major NFT projects that have sort of took the world by a storm a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Basically, the headline from The Verge is that Bored Ape Yacht Club creator will now block Opensea in a fight over payments. So this is basically two companies that are struggling right now, trying to figure out how the money is flowing. And Opensea is going to stop collecting resale fees for NFTs original creators. So Bored Ape Yacht Club, a creator, is going to stop supporting Opensea. This is a tit-for-tat kind of thing, where The Verge opens up by saying two of the biggest names in the NFT space are clashing over the future of how the token's creators get paid. Yuga Labs, the company behind Bored Ape Yacht Club, by the way, they acquired Bored Ape Yacht Club, let's not forget that, and CryptoPunks said today that it would block the ability to trade its newer NFTs on Opensea by February 2024. The move is meant to protest Opensea's decision to stop collecting royalties on behalf of NFT creators, a huge blow to Yuga's business. One of the big promises of NFTs, says the article, was that their original creator would get a cut every time they were resold. For companies like Yuga, which saw explosive prices on the Bored Ape collection for a time, those royalty fees added up to tens of millions of dollars. A blog post suggests the number was $35 million for Bored Apes alone, just via OpenSea trades as of November 2022. And the article goes on to talk that not all of Yuga's NFTs will be blocked from OpenSea because of the technology constraints, but it would drop OpenSea support on all upgradable contracts and any new collections. And so this goes on to speak to the larger place of where we are with regard to NFTs and crypto in general, which is the crypto winter continues, it seems, and NFTs have certainly seen, Bored Ape Yacht Club has seen a dramatic reduction in their value. CryptoPunks not so much. They've maintained their value for the most part. But so you were hot and heavy in this space. I want to get your take totally. What's going on here, and why is OpenSea taking this stance? Are they in trouble, or is this just something that they're trying to figure out how to? Why would they stop providing royalties to the NFT creators?
I'm no expert in this, but there are a lot of OpenSea is a marketplace for NFTs where you can buy and sell. There's a lot of new marketplaces that are coming on that are basically putting up lower fees. And if OpenSea wants to offer less fees, the easiest way to do that is not to pay the optional fee of the creator. Now, when people initially got into NFTs, they said, oh, if I create an NFT collection, it's automatically in the blockchain where I get paid my royalties every time there is a sale of an NFT. Not true. That is in Ethereum, I think 721 or whatever on the blockchain for that type of blockchain, it's not written into the code. So that has to be enforced by somebody else to pay that. OpenSea doesn't want to make that mandatory. They want to set it up like it's a tip. In other ways, like, oh, do you want to pay the creator something?
Right.
And that goes back to one of the wonderful things that we loved about non-fungible tokens was that a creator could make this and they put out some piece of their IP, and every time there was a transaction, they get a little piece of it. Now, should that be worth 5% or 10%? I don't know. Maybe that's too high. We need to normalize down to 0.5% or 1% or 2%. I don't know what that is, but OpenSea actually has to be the ones, the marketplace has to be the ones, because it's not written into the code and they have to pay those off. Well, of course, the creators aren't going to like that because they want their money. So of course Yuga, which by the way, I think Yuga created Bored Ape, they bought CryptoPunks.
Thank you for that
So
correction.
so they had, so with all that cash they had from Bored Ape, they went on and bought CryptoPunks and a couple other ones that were under that umbrella.
Yeah.
So so anyways, this is going to go back and forth, and Yuga can absolutely sell direct. And I don't have a problem with them doing this and say, hey, we want to enforce this. If they want to enforce it, they're going to have to enforce it themselves. They can't rely on Opensea to do it for them. It's the same thing. I've been talking about this with Amazon. It's like if you were an author and you put your book on Amazon, you got to play by Amazon's rules. You got to play by not getting the data from the people that bought your book. You have to play by smaller revenues and profits for you. If you would like the data yourself as an author and a creator, and you would like more revenue and more profit, you sell direct. And that's the way with everything. So if you're going to use a third party like Opensea, you have to play by Opensea's rules. And Yuga, they're big enough, they don't have to do that. CryptoPunks has always sold direct. So all the trading that has gone on forever, and maybe that's one of the reasons why their numbers have held up a little bit more, because they have a wonderful community. You have to go to CryptoPunks and you have to link up your wallet with that and sell directly on that platform, and you can't do it through Opensea. It's always been that way. So they made that decision. I don't have a problem with this. Now, if you're a smaller creator, you absolutely probably have no choice but to go on some kind of marketplace because you can't police this yourself, and you don't want to set up the technology yourself to do this.
Well, so, I think what it says to me is that if the marketplace, if the market right now was better or hotter, there's no doubt that what's going on here is mainly because the market is so stressed right now, right? Nobody's buying and selling this
Opensea doesn't have as much inventory flowing through, and there's not enough buying and selling, so they have to say, well, we need to.
And that's the only way a marketplace makes money, right? That's the only way a marketplace makes money is, it's the same as a mall, right? If you look at a mall, they give away their real estate to what they call anchor stores, so that more people will come to the mall, right? So it basically, they give it away to Apple, or they give it away to whatever major retailer you love, in order to sort of subsidize the smaller retailers who are paying high rents, in order to get more people to flow through the mall and do transactions, because that's, they make their money from the margin of the number of people who come through and make purchases. And so it's not a dissimilar model here that we're talking about. The only difference being that they make their money not on rents, but on some sort of margin on the actual transactions of the stuff that gets sold. And if stuff's not getting sold, they're not making money. And for the stuff that is getting sold, the margins are thin if they have to actually deal with actually paying the creator a little bit of this as well. So it's a little bit like the GoFundMe, right? Where you can say, oh, you go on and you do the GoFundMe, and then at the end of your little transaction, it says, by the way, you want to tip GoFundMe for providing this wonderful service to be able to do this? Oh yeah, you can add a tip, or you can add it to your thing. So it feels to me, what do you think long term? Is this just a blip and we're going to start to see a rise here? And I've been watching, Bitcoin, I've been watching Ethereum, I've been watching Dogecoin for the last year. It hasn't moved. Up 5%, down 5%, up 8%, down 8%, up 5%, up down 5%. As we speak, Bitcoin's a little bit down from its sort of level set, but are we going to see another rise here, or is this just like the level is now set for these stores of value called crypto, and we're basically going to sit on this like it is gold?
Well, there's two different things when you talk about crypto. If you want to talk about the major currencies, if you will, of Bitcoin and Ethereum, I think the use cases are there. Bitcoin, by the way, is up 60% this year. So that's pretty impressive. And if you look at the best, if you look at it as an investment, the best investment over the last 10 years has been Bitcoin. So we don't want to, it's been so up and down and it's very volatile. But if you look at the long-term trend, it's pretty impressive what's happened. Ethereum has done amazingly well. Obviously, it's being used as a currency on a lot of these marketplaces. Those are the only two that I have any faith in right now. I don't look at anything else. I just look at the two, that the utility is there. It has a good community around it. There's a lot of innovation going on in those communities. Great. I love all those. So I put those separately out in crypto. Then when you're looking at crypto from a creator standpoint, the problem I think that happened in 20 and 21 was the financialization. Everybody looked at the financialization. What's my token worth, and trading back and forth. And if they just looked at the utility of some of these small communities, there's a lot of small crypto-based communities that are doing really, really well. And nobody's talking about them right now. So this is really good, I think, in most cases, because you saw that big run up with everything in crypto in 21. And then everybody's like, oh my God, it's over. It's not over. Web3 is going strong. There's still a lot of amazing use cases. I still talk about it when you're looking at you're a content entrepreneur and you want to look at how do I add crypto into my business model as a type of membership where I can get to somebody to sell off my IP in some way. I mean, we still have our CEX never-ending tickets, and we stopped them at 75, and we still have 75 amazing people in our community that get added benefits because they bought the NFT, sometime recently to 2 years ago. So we've got a wonderful community that continues to grow. We're coming out with a book that about 35 of the NFT holders are adding to that book about being a content entrepreneur. And we're not the only community that's doing this. A lot of them are doing this. So it's just not getting the play anymore because nobody in the news is talking about it, which is really, really good. So let this all settle down. These communities are still going strong. I think that it's still a viable option for people to look at, but I would not confuse the Bitcoins, Ethereums, and what is happening on these PFPs, big Bored Ape stuff and CryptoPunks stuff versus what smaller creators are doing to integrate it into their business model, which I think is really good.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, and I have not been keeping up with it nearly as much these days, and it's fascinating. Yeah, I mean, I was just looking at the price of Bitcoin as you were talking there, and yeah, I mean, it's up from a year ago, for sure. From 20 to 30, and down significantly over the last few weeks. So
that's why I tell people, like, I believe this. I mean, this, again, not a financial show, not financial advice,
right?
But if you have a portfolio, I believe that a very small percentage of that portfolio should be diversified into cryptocurrency of some kind. And my favorite ones are Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Yeah.
So, and whether that's 0.5%, 1%, 2%, something like that feels right to me. I also believe the same about art, whether that's physical art or digital art. And I would consider Bored Ape Yacht Club and CryptoPunks to be digital art. That's how I look at it, as an investment, if that's what you're looking at. And then, but if you're not at that point, don't even touch it. But if you're a content creator, I think you have an obligation, just like you would say, hey, should I launch training? Should I do consulting? Should I do online courses? Should I do an event? Should I do an NFT project?
That's right.
I think that if I'm going to launch a book, you could launch it as an NFT project if you wanted to. If you're looking for, if you have a smaller community where you're looking for a larger amount of revenue from a lesser amount of people, your 1,000 true fans, your 100 super fans, as Li Jin talks about, whatever. I think those are still in play with crypto.
Yeah, good point. So, excellent point. Excellent point. All right, moving on now. Speaking of a community that is sort of has been up and down and a little bit in stasis, Threads. Threads seems to have lost a lot of the luster that it had a couple of weeks ago, but as according to a new article from The Verge, maybe Threads on the web will save the organization. So Threads on the web is here, says the headline. You'll finally be able to browse your feeds in Meta's Threads on the website. Meta is finally launching a much more capable web app for Threads, the company announced on Tuesday. You'll be able to post, interact with other posts, and look at your feed. Spokesperson Christine Pai tells The Verge. It's set to roll out over the next few days. It was not, as of the recording of this show, available to me anyway. I tried it. And many of the colleagues that the writer talked to got access on Wednesday night or Thursday morning. So far, Threads on the web has essentially been a glorified way to look at somebody's profile. You couldn't even like or reshare a post even through the web app even though the web app included the buttons to do so. If you click them, Threads would show you a QR code to download the mobile app. The new desktop web interface looks a lot like the one on the mobile app, though with some small differences. The navigation icons are on top of the page, and to switch between the For You and Following, you'll click a button in the lower left corner. However, the web experience doesn't let you do everything that you can do on the mobile app, and basically you're not going to be able to edit your profile or send a post to Instagram DMs from the web. One annoyance I've found since getting access is there's no notification dot on the heart icon. Yeah, I've noticed that too. There's, I mean, look, it's a new platform. It's going to have bugs. It's going to have idiosyncrasies, and I just find I'm forgetting. Right, unlike at the moment X, formerly known as Twitter, I'm just forgetting to go there, to be honest.
Yeah, so it's not important. You're not making it part of your daily process.
It's not part of my daily process
yet. And
a lot of that is because I'm not on my phone. Right, I was actually excited to see this because I spend 90% of my day in front of a computer, not in front of my phone, and so I'm not traveling. I'm not in front of my phone. My phone has really, in many ways, become sort of, something that it's actually become more of a sort of mobile, quick communication device than it is sort of a surfing the web or doing the things that I want to do, because I've got my iPad for that, for relaxation, like when I'm reading and stuff, and my phone is much more of a, how am I communicating with people around me?
Yeah, that's right.
So it's an interesting challenge here because the interface seems to be wrong, at least for me, and I would have to imagine for a lot of people. What about you?
I think they messed up this launch. I think they rushed it to get the mobile version out, and they should have followed that up a couple weeks later with a desktop version.
Yeah,
I'm the same as you. I never, hardly ever post Twitter on my mobile.
That's
I
right.
use TweetDeck, which is now, I guess, X Pro.
Yeah,
which they have renamed that, and that's how I.
Doesn't sound like porn at all, really.
Well,
I mean, if you think,
but if you look at a lot of Twitter's users, that's what Threads was going after.
Yeah,
they're doing the same things we are. They're on a computer all day long. They're knowledge workers. They've got multiple screens up, and Twitter might be one of those screens, just like Twitch might be one of those screens, or Discord might be one of those screens. And not having that, I had to change my entire behavior to go to my phone to post on Threads. I don't do it. And that's why I'm like, I'm not changing my process to do it. If they would have had something like a TweetDeck for Threads immediately, I probably would have started to use it.
Totally.
And got involved. And I haven't.
More heavily. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that was where they dropped the ball and had to rush to get out as Elon was making all these mistakes. You know what? Elon is going to continue to make the mistakes. The opportunity is going to continue to be there. They could have waited a little bit until they had these things ready.
Right. And this is where the similarities to Instagram fall down, right? In other words, there's a reason that Twitter was what Twitter is and that Instagram is what Instagram is, because it makes sense that Instagram is a much more mobile experience for people like for us, right?
Yeah.
Because what you're doing, you're taking a picture. You're taking a picture of something, and so you don't do that from your computer, right? You don't do that from your iPad. You don't do that from your laptop. You do that with your phone because you're out and about and you're doing something, and you want to take a selfie, or you want to take a picture of something cool, or you want to take a picture of your breakfast, or you're a content influencer and you're taking pictures in a studio. You're gonna post that mostly from your phone, but Twitter's a very different kind of thing.
When you're using text, you're usually typing at a keyboard, right?
Right. And
it's much more difficult. That's the longest part of the creation time is creating the copy for Instagram.
That's right. And so so the Twitter use case is a little different. Thus, a Twitter-like experience with a Threads type of app is going to be a little different.
Yeah.
And I think for those, it's interesting because what I hear is that for journalists and for people who were sort of in that space on Twitter, the move to Threads has been easier. And a lot of that is because they're out covering stories, they're interviewing people at events, they're out and about and, doing their work. really their mobile phone is a much different kind of tool than it is for somebody like you or I, right? Their mobile phone is their tether to their content. And so they're much more used to using Twitter on the move, because they're posting up their story, they're posting up a picture, they're doing a video, and they're posting that up. They're doing a thread, whatever it happens to be. Now, I think so. It's interesting that when I look and see who's really active there, it seems to be mostly reporters, journalists, people who sort of use their phone in that very different way. So my hope is, because I really like it. I really like Threads. And my hope is that this is going to very quickly get into a situation where I can use my desktop, because I'll be much more active on it.
The best case scenario for Threads, as they made that huge 100 million user jump that went down to something, from what we can guess, maybe around 5 to 10 million now, that would be the base. Hit the boom, go down, you hit the trough of disillusionment or whatever. You're looking at Gartner's thing, and then you just slowly start going up, and getting a couple million here and there to add on, and then you'll at some point be half of what's on Twitter.
Yeah,
you'd be like, okay, we've got something here. But
exactly,
I don't know. We'll see.
Exactly. All right. Well, speaking of Twitter, because we have to mention it at some point.
Do we?
Look, Twitter says it's going to block the block. There's a couple of articles that we'll link to here. The first one will be from Daily Variety, and it's so interesting because when I bring up this story, I've got my browser set to the point where it doesn't give me the homepage takeover ad.
I've got every one of these now have the takeover for some streaming show or something. It's just crazy.
And what's really interesting?
This is the Miss Pat show, by the way, of those listening. We're looking at a takeover.
I just expanded my browser, and my takeover ad is from IBM. That just shows you how different you and I are.
I'm getting the Miss Pat show.
You're getting the Miss Pat show, and I'm getting IBM.
I guess that does say all we need to know.
Yeah. So, reimagine how work gets done with AI-powered productivity, says IBM. Anyway, all right. The headline here is, will Musk's removing X/Twitter? He can't make this rebrand stick. It's just amazing to me. Removing the X/Twitter user blocking feature, get it kicked off of Apple and Google App stores. Elon Musk set off a firestorm on Friday by announcing that Twitter, now called X, would delete the service's long-standing user blocking feature, raising the prospect that as a result, the app could be booted from Apple and Google's App Store. Block is going to be deleted as a feature except for DMs, Musk wrote. It makes no sense. Soon after, Musk made the claim, users annotated his post via the platform's community notes feature and included links to Apple and Google's App Store guidelines, alleging Musk cannot eliminate the account blocking feature without running afoul of the rules. By Friday evening, however, the community notes fact check had been removed from Musk's post. According to Apple's App Store review guidelines, apps with user-generated content or social networking services must include the ability to block abusive users from the service. Similarly, Google Play's policies on restricted content say apps that contain or feature user-generated content must implement robust, effective, and ongoing UGC moderation that provides an in-app system for blocking UGC and users. So would the X app be banned by Apple and Google if the account blocking feature is removed? Not necessarily. The article goes on to explain about why it might not be, and all of that. What do you think about this? I honestly, I've never had to block anybody, so this is a really kind of interesting thing that I have never had to deal with, but I know plenty of people, including my wife, who have had to block people, and this is much more of a challenge, honestly, for women than it is for men, for sure, as I've witnessed.
I would, and the bullying and some of the stuff that goes on. Well, first thing, any change that Elon makes at this point puts Twitter users in an uproar. Anything.
Sure.
Even if it ultimately is positive. So let's just put that out there, where the press automatically makes it negative. Even the headlines are negative. Oh my God, they're scrapping this, whatever. People are in an uproar. Yeah. Okay. So for the next 20 weeks, every week, there's going to be Elon makes a change. Twitter users in an uproar. So let's just level set that that's the way that it's going to be.
Sure.
Regarding this, it sounds
and this, by the way, is a dance that he knows he's doing, right? This is a dance that is, and we've talked about this on the show before, that this is a dance that he's well aware gets him press.
He's very similar to Trump in that way. They know what levers
friction creates headlines. Absolutely.
Yeah. And he does a really good job at that.
Yeah.
Now it sounds like between blocking and muting, what he wants the extra inventory. I get why that, because if you block it, if you remove this block, you get extra inventory where these people will see it. But I think that there's probably where they're going to go is the super mute or muting, where they can't reply. Like they can see the person's stuff, but they can't reply, and they can't quote tweet or whatever it's called now. So I think there's some middle ground here. I don't think that this is that big of a deal. I think you always throw it out as the extreme, and then you'll come back with something that's like, oh, okay, well, this is okay, and everybody's happy. That's exactly what this is going to be, in my opinion.
Maybe. Yeah, I think that maybe. I think that is, so for example, it's interesting because the mute thing might work. But I just can't imagine that there's that much inventory that's missing here. I can't figure out for the life of me what the positive is on this. What the good is, other than what you just said, because I totally buy that. But that number has to be so infinitesimally small. In terms of
I don't know. Or maybe it's the nothing should be censored message.
Well,
which is not a true thing, but that's what he's trying to do.
Yeah. From a philosophy standpoint, I get why I understand it. I don't agree with it, but I understand what his position is there. But other than, so many people blocking, because look, let's be honest, blocking itself is relegated to a few people. It's not like very few people block people. B, the people who block people are probably blocking the same people. In other words, so it's concentrated. You know what I mean? And so
it would be interesting to see what kind of an effect it makes, because they're probably celebrities. Let's put it out. This is only going to affect 0.1% of the user base.
Exactly.
Because most of us aren't popular enough to care.
That's right. That's right.
So,
because a person, a person that has 25 followers blocking another person that has 30 followers is that there is zero happens there, right? Yeah. Nothing happens to that.
Well, maybe because Elon doesn't like journalists. So, and a journalist is a large part of this. I think that's got
to be something, right? I just don't know. I can't understand this. To me, other than just what we talked about, which is creating a friction-filled headline for getting coverage in Variety and getting coverage and everything else, which allows them to use this non-issue as a means of saying, that the article is going to cover something else. And by the way, the Variety plays right into this, right? In other words, the article starts out by talking about this issue and about how Monica Lewinsky basically posted and please rethink this and all of that, which gets you the clicks and gets you the views on the article. But then they start talking about, Linda Yaccarino is talking about her ad sales, and she's talking about how this is, we're focused on safety and that's our number one priority.
Yeah, I love that quote. It's like X's number one priority is user safety.
Right.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, it gets back to this idea that, that it's not dissimilar from what we were just talking about at the beginning of the show about the debates, right? It's not really about talking about the issue. It's just an excuse to give the stump speech, right? So this becomes an excuse for Twitter to give its new stump speech, which of course is talking about why Twitter is such a great place to come advertise.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go off again about the ridiculousness of this rebrand, because it's just not working. It's just not happening, this is going to be the most amazing
Although people
case
are finally making the change. I've seen it out there. I've seen the X instead of the bird. Like, people are starting to use it.
Yeah, so, I guess. I did it for the first time. For my new book, I had to fill out a profile page about where to send people and all that kind of stuff. And it's, the form asked for my Twitter handle, and I said, no, it's x.com/Robert_Rose.
There you go.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Crazy. Yeah.
All right. Well, now it is time for us to get to our rants and raves section, which of course is where Joe and I go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave over something that makes us feel like we're Ron DeSantis getting sidelined, or I don't know what. How am I going with
Nobody
that?
wants to feel like Ron DeSantis.
That's
let's just put that out there.
Three fingers in pudding. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
All right. You want to go first here with your Six the musical?
Yeah.
I'm desperate to hear about this.
So as many of you know, we're part of the Cleveland Broadway series, if you will. And so in Cleveland, Ohio, we go to 8 or 9 Broadway type shows every year. And the one last week was Six, the musical. I went in knowing absolutely nothing about it, Robert. And I come to find out that it's about the 6 wives of Henry VIII.
Oh, wow.
And it's also basically what, I don't want to give anything away, but they basically are all trying to convey to the audience why they had it the worst of the 6.
Okay.
And it's all done like one sings in the style of Beyonce, and one is in the style of Ariana Grande, and one is Britney Spears. The music is tremendous. The writing is quick, superb, witty. The band it's outside. By the way, all female cast, all female band. And
oh my gosh,
80, I think it was 80 minutes, no intermission, which is my favorite kind, because Come From Away does that as well, and I absolutely loved it. We had a great time. By the end of it, the audience is standing, singing, dancing. It was one of those really fun shows. I haven't been to a show quite that entertaining in a long time. 5 stars, 2 thumbs up, whatever you want to say. Absolutely. And now, by the way, it does make a very strong point at the end, sort of hits you over the head with a sledgehammer. I enjoyed that part of it, but I would just leave it to people to go and see it about, what happens with the 6 wives, but can't recommend it highly enough. So there you go.
Is it about the patriarchy? You can be honest. Is it about the
patriarchy? It is about the patriarchy. Yes.
Fantastic. All right.
The one thing that I will say, and this is where you have to look at everything, like the way that people, in this case, women, were written into history was always written into history by a man.
Sure, of course. Absolutely.
Right?
100%.
Yep. We know this. Same thing with the Bible, same thing with everything else.
Yeah.
So you just need to be aware of that, I think. And that's what they're trying to say, is like, hey, we were portrayed this way because of these things.
Right. That's right.
And then you're looking at it like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. I understand why it was written that way.
Oh, I can't. Oh, that sounds fantastic. Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to.
Really, really good and super.
I'm going to totally recommend that.
Your wife will love it when she goes to New York. Got to go see this. Absolutely.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. How about yours?
All right. Well, very quickly here, just to keep you all up to date with what's going on in my backyard here in Los Angeles with regard to the studios and the striking writers and actors. So this last week, the studios came back with a new proposal, and everybody was all excited because everybody was going back to the negotiation table. And they came back with their proposal, which became public, by the way. They sent out a memo and talked about what their proposal was going to be. And we'll link in the show notes, by the way, to the Hollywood Reporter article that goes through this. And it was fascinating to me because what I have been, you've heard me on the show before talk about, I think my theory, my hypothesis was that the sticking point was residuals and not actual pay and AI stuff. Mm-hmm. And it seems like my hypothesis is coming a little bit true. Now, again, I'm reading the tea leaves here like everybody else, so it's all sort of, again, hypothesis on my part. But what the article goes through is that the new proposal by the AMPTP, which is the producers group, which is basically, think of it as big media, basically said, okay, look, we're going to give you a 5% increase in wages in the first year, 4%, and then 3% in the second year, and 3.5% in the third year, which is what the DGA went, yay, we're in, right? We're in for that. And basically the writers have said, no, we want 6, 5, and 5. But that's close enough that I'm going, okay, they're just arguing over percentage points, right? Now, they'll meet somewhere in the middle on that. That doesn't seem to me to be a big sticking point. Then, of course, there was the AI, piece of it. And the producers came back with what I think they've always come back with, and what I think has always been a bit of a red herring here in terms of what the sticking point was with AI. And they've said, look, we're not going to use AI for any original created series. We're not going to consider that original work. Blah blah blah. And so I think that's not going to be a big sticking point either. However, when it gets to the point about residuals, you can see that they're way apart on this, basically, because what they said was, look, we're going to come back and give you a bit of a raise on the way that we do residuals. And just as a reminder, the way they do residuals now on streaming is if it's on the streaming network, you get a set fee for however long it's on the streaming network. And so you get, and it's, and basically it's divided up by however long it's on that streaming network. So it's a flat fee. Doesn't matter if you're the number 1 show or the number 10 show, you don't know, basically. Basically they give you get a residual, which, you can argue, okay, it's good for those shows that don't do that well, but it's not good for shows that do well, right? So it's a very hard thing for writers and actors to sort of swallow because they want to get paid more if their show is successful. Probably a reasonable expectation. But the streaming networks, of course, don't want to get into a situation where they have to publicly disclose which shows are doing well and which aren't, because that would mean that they're in the ratings business, and that hampers their ability in negotiations for future money for future shows, right? So it makes it more expensive for good writers, basically. Makes it more expensive for good actors, because they can argue, hey, our last show was number 1, now you got to pay us, you got to pay us the money. So they don't want to disclose that. What the producers came back and said was, well, what we'll do is we'll give you super secret documents every month on some of the performance of some of the shows. But we're still going to keep the residuals in the same way. And basically the writers in this case have said, to the whole proposal, not only no, but hell no, right? So I think that's going to be the big sticking point, and I don't think the producers are going to budge on this. I really don't. I think this is going to go easily into January of next year.
Oh man, that's going to be.
It's going to be. I think it's going to be. I really think this is going to become a huge sea change. I think at some point they will somehow figure out a way to do some of this. I continue to think that this is not going to be a winner for anybody. This is going to be a loser for everybody. Ultimately, but I'm when I look at this, I'm like, this tells me that this is going to go on for a while, that they're not going to be able to figure this out.
That's good news for AI generated content.
It's good news for things like, it's good news for people like TikTok and Facebook and all the rest of it.
And everything else. And we'll, but there does seem to be still right now, at least from the things that I read, there's content that can be bought. Like there's shows that are done. There's things that are already in the can that will fill this gap. But at some point,
until January, well, it's going to be a trailing thing, right? Because you won't notice it as a consumer this fall. You'll notice it is next spring. Next spring is where it's going to be like, we got nothing. We got nothing to show you, basically.
Well, like with from what I heard about Mission Impossible, they filmed most of that in 2 parts, because it's part 1 has already come out, but part 2 they still had a small amount of filming and I don't think they're able to do that.
They can't.
So that part 2, who knows when that's going to come out.
It'll be delayed. So feature films will be really the hardest hit, but it'll be especially your big feature films, because they're the ones that are most intricate and hard to do. But new TV series, new streaming series, for example, Star Trek, we just finished an amazing season.
Yeah, I know you love that. I haven't seen one thing about it. So
Strange New Worlds is just amazeballs. Loved it, and now it's looking like it's not, the next season won't come until 2025.
Oh,
because
that's a tough one.
because they're not going to be able to film it. So it's annoying.
What are you going to do now? You can't watch anything.
I know. I just started Ahsoka.
Oh, did you? Any good?
Here's what I'll say about it.
By the way, Ahsoka is
Star Wars. It's basically the continuation of the Rebels animated series, if you watch that, which I did, of course. And it's Ahsoka Tano, who is basically the Padawan to Anakin Skywalker, and I'm just going to stop there.
Isn't that Rosario Dawson?
It's Rosario Dawson in the series, and it's basically the continuation of Rebels, right? It's more of that than it really is about her. And so I'll say this. The first episode felt off to me. And then I went back and watched the last episode of Rebels, and I see why, because it's pretty much shot for shot the last episode of Rebels. And so it's like, I know why they did that. They had to reintroduce the characters. They have to make people who didn't see Rebels aware of what these characters are fighting for. So it was a lot of character introduction. So give me 2 or 3 more episodes and then I'll see. The one thing I'll say is I don't remember Ahsoka being sort of the disapproving soccer mom. You know, I mean, she's sleepy in this. She is sleepy in that first episode, just sleepy.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping she like wakes up. The character like wakes up a little bit. So
I think Disney's got a big problem with both Marvel and the Star Wars series, because there's definitely a lack of enthusiasm going on right now for anything moving forward. So Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was fantastic, but I haven't seen I liked it. Yeah. I was very, very entertained, but I haven't seen a lot of the other shows, especially on the Star Wars side, that's really done what I think it should do. So they're in trouble. Anyways.
All right. Next, what do we got? You're leaving. You're traveling.
So our next show will be a special episode.
That's right.
Because I am on vacation going to Nantucket with my bride, and this is something that she's wanted to do for a long time, and I've never been there, and we're really looking forward to it. And we're going off the grid for a while, so it should be wonderful. Very romantic.
Very nice. Well, we will be heads down here in Los Angeles working on stuff, getting ready for Content Marketing World, getting ready for a bunch of new stuff that we're going to be launching at Content Marketing World, including my book. So all hands on deck right there. And
very good.
Yeah. So we will see all of you next week when we get to our special episode. It's going to be a fun one because we're answering questions that you have all sent in. So thank you for that. And by the way, if you want to send in questions or voicemail, do so at thisoldmarketing.com, our wonderful website. But until we see you next week, remember, everybody, it is your story to tell. Tell it well. See you next week on This Old Marketing.